Hey gang, Kris Krohn here, and today I want to share with you the one purchase that changed my life forever. So we're in my car because I'm actually going to take you to this purchase, and you might have guessed it, the purchase is in fact a house. But of all the houses I've ever bought, which one would actually be classified as the most important? You might be thinking, Kris, it was probably the first house that you bought. You bought it with a lot of equity, you rented out the basement, you live for free. It's probably your first house. But you know what? It was not my first house. As much of an ordeal and an experience as it was for my wife and I to buy the first house, we could easily justify it because we needed a place to live. And I was renting an apartment, and I kind of sold my wife on this idea that instead of throwing rent money away, we'll actually buy a house. And if we buy a house and can rent out a basement, we'll actually live for less than we were paying in rent. Well, I could sell my wife on that. Even though I had bigger, ideas of grandeur when it came to real estate investing, my wife was still new to the whole thing, and it was kind of nerve-wracking for her. So that was really important. But I'm also going to tell you that when you're an investor and you're buying your very first house, and you're going to live in it, you can feel like it's an investment, but you don't really know if it is until you really start making significant money off of it. It turns out that the purchase that changed my life in such a meaningful way was not my first house, it was my second. And today I'm going to drive you over to a city nearby called Pleasant Grove, and I'm going to take you to the second house I ever bought. Now, what makes this house such an important purchase was it was a much nicer and bigger home than the one I was living in. And I could have moved my family into it, and it would have been a nicer, bigger home. But at that time, I was delaying gratification. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what's going to get me ahead. I mean, remember, it was just 4.5 years from buying that first house to actually moving into that beast of a house that I currently live in. And it was the choices I made in between that 4-year gap that made all the difference. So the second house was a really big deal because it was more nerve-wracking for my brand new wife, because it's all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna buy a really big house, a big asset with a bigger mortgage than the one that we even have on our house, and we're not gonna live in it. I mean, even my in-laws thought that I was kind of crazy. Like, Kris, what are you doing buying a house? Like, you don't need 2 houses. And I had done my math on that house. That house, by the way, I got in hindsight, I made well over 100. I think made around $130,000 on that house by the time I sold it. And I bought it with a ton of equity. And that house was such a big deal because it had a $600 a month cash flow. The reason why I call this such a life-changing purchase was because 3 months after we had bought this house, my wife called a meeting. She pulled me into our tiny little office space, and she sat me down next to the computer, and she says, Kris, I have a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? She says, it's this second house we bought. And I'm thinking, wait, there's no problem. We're renting it, positive cash flow, right? We got our mortgage and we're renting it for a lot more. And she says, well, Kris, that's just the thing. The house has $600 of cash flow every month, and I don't know where to put it on our budget. Like, it's not an expense, so I don't know what to do. And she was scratching her head, and she's like, well, I asked her, I said, what are you doing with the money that we get from the basement on our house? And she says, well, I just counted against the mortgage. I'm like, well, I guess that works. I said, what have you been doing with the extra $600? She says, I've been paying down our credit cards. And she said, actually, that's why I wanted to meet with you, because we've been paying our credit cards down so fast that we haven't actually been getting out of debt. For the first time, we're actually eliminating our consumer debt. Like, this is amazing. And it was right then that I realized that second investment property, even though both of these homes, the first home that we bought, the second home, were a big stretch for my wife, they were actually a really, really, really big deal for her, because now that we had 2 homes, we were living for free plus getting paid $600 a month. We were getting out of debt. My wife saw this real estate tastes good. This is a good thing. And as we started trying to figure out together as a couple what to do with that extra money, and yes, let's just keep paying off that credit card, which she felt great about, it led to the big life-changing decision. That was when my wife called a meeting for me to say, Kris, what if we bought enough real estate that you didn't have to have a job? Because you don't necessarily love the job that you're doing. You definitely don't want to do it forever. And I got to tell you, if you're an entrepreneur and you're in a serious committed relationship, or you're married, opposites attract. If you're the one that likes the real estate, you're probably married to someone who's more conservative. I know that I'm talking about you. And when your conservative spouse approaches you and says, hey, can we buy a lot more real estate so that we can get ahead and get you out of a job? You have done something right. So this second house that we're going to is such a big deal for me. Even though I don't even own it anymore, it's kind of emotional to think about it and drive by this house, because that was the house that led to my wife bringing it up to me that we should buy enough homes that I could be financially free, she could get the perks of that, and we could live a whole new life. So check it out. This right here, this is the one purchase that ended up making the biggest difference. Now, I want to tell you exactly how I found it, just as a bonus even. I actually started going online through the real estate ads, and I wasn't looking for a good deal. I was looking for a realtor that represented good deals. And I found 10 realtors, and I called all of them up and I said, I'm looking for a 20% discount. And 7 out of the 10 thought I was totally crazy. A couple of them said, okay. One of them said they would do something, and one of them sent me this house that afternoon. So in the morning, I made the phone call, and I'm telling you, the deal of the decade comes along once a week. So this house came up, and I immediately saw, wait a second, this house has 3,000 square feet, but the bank is selling it for around 150,000. It was a foreclosure. Now in this area, things sell at closer to $100 a square foot. So 3,000 square feet at 100 a foot is $300,000, and the price on it was $150,000, and it had maybe $6,000-$7,000 of cosmetic, basically some paint, carpet, and spackle. That was it. So this house ended up being a treasure trove. I think I sold it for around $300,000 by the time I eventually sold it years later, but I made a $600 a month cash flow right out of the gate up front. Along the way, I pulled some money out of it and dumped it into some of my other deals. And I'm telling you right now that what made this house the game changer was it turned my wife into a believer. That extra $600 a month, she's like, what do I do with it? Let's eliminate our debt. Oh my gosh, I came into really good financial graces in that moment. Our finances improved, and my wife connected the dots. Every house makes us better off. First house, live for free. Second house, pay off our debt. What could a third house mean? What could a fifth house mean? What could an eighth house mean? So for me, this has been one of the best purchases. And for you, investment real estate may end up being one of the best purchases for you as well. Man, not only did I make armfuls of money, but more importantly, that was the house that really got my wife on board. It got my support system in place. And I'm going to tell you right now that the first couple of purchases that you make in real estate are going to be the most important. The home that you buy, if you buy it right, if you buy it with equity, if you buy it smart, if you buy it with great cash flow, you're going to win. But the house that you buy that you don't live in, if you really buy that one the right way, it will set you up forever. I can't tell you how many people right now are cycling into my mind, family members and friends and people that ended up making a grundle on these houses because they bought it the right way. I think it'll end up being one of the most important purchases for you. I'm thrilled for you. In fact, I'm already getting jazzed up and excited for you. And I want to tell you right now that if you want a shortcut, you can actually work directly with me. I actually mentor people in how to not just buy their first home and their second home, but their 10th and their 20th home. If you want to get set up for a lifetime of financial freedom, then click the link in the description below, talk to a member of my team, and we'll share the details with you of what it could look like for me to be your mentor and help you crush it in real estate.